It's really helped us and opened our eyes to where we thought we were hitting the nail on the head and maybe we were missing the mark.
Hello, I am Sarah Parker, the Content Marketing Manager for Cision, and I am here today with Scott Peacock, the Director of PR for Visit Raleigh. So hi Scott, how are you doing today?
Good, good.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about what are the current challenges that you're facing in travel and tourism and PR?
One of the biggest challenges that we're facing in the sector of DMOs, or destination marketing organizations such as ourselves, is that nuance of not really owning our brand and our product like maybe a consumer packaged goods would. So at the end of the day, we're all in charge of promoting a destination like Raleigh. But when it comes to a measurement standpoint, do I necessarily want to take ownership of every single article that ever mentions the word Raleigh? Mm-hmm. So how do I really hone in my search terms, and how do I really work on my media monitoring to make sure that I'm getting the pertinent stories that I want, but not also casting the net so wide that anytime a byline from Raleigh is out there that it's pulling into my stuff. So it's a struggle because we don't own anything, but we're in charge of promoting everything.
With that comes the challenge of defining your value proposition and your ROI. So how do you prove that PR is working to the C-suite?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. It's looking at the earned media placements that you're able to get, showing the value that they bring. Specifically in the tourism world, we can show maybe how that's helping to drive visitors into our destinations or our hotels or our attractions. If you are doing any kind of surveying post, facto, how did you hear about us, right? That's a great way to kind of see if the articles are making an impact. I think specifically for us in the DMO sector of travel and tourism, also the partner feedback. If we're able to get a great story placed on an amazing restaurant and chef down the street, making sure that they are able to tell our C-suite, that was a great story, and man, that did so much for us. It sent 50 more diners through, the following day after it ran. Getting that feedback and having it fly up the flagpole to the C-suite is really important. Getting that third-party endorsement, not just us saying how great we are at what we do.
So what are some of the best practices that you learned while you were a chair at PRSA that you've brought into this role?
I think that the first thing is step outside your industry cluster. So much of the strategies and the tactics that we're implementing now in the tourism world and specifically in the DMO world are coming from other markets. I went to lots of shows and met with lots of other industries and public relations and got best practices on how is like the corporate sector doing things, what's going on in healthcare, and how can we take some of that and apply it to ours. And so sort of stepping outside of your own box, but for best practices and ideas, and I think is the first thing. And then another is that we have such an impact on the impression that visitors have when they come through. So being more mindful of not just promoting the story and getting the word out there about your area or your attraction or your restaurant, but what role can PR play in the actual experience that a visitor has? And that really drives value to the C-suite above and beyond just media relations. It shows that we are actually able to help affect the story and the narrative and the experience, and ultimately help create a brand just as impactful as a marketing or branding side of the business could be. So, yeah.
And also, how do you measure impact?
Impact for us is really important. We like to be very analytical in our role here at the Greater Raleigh Convention Visitors Bureau. So for us, impact is looking at, is the article really effectively reaching the audience that we intended it to? We like to use the Cision impact to make sure that we're aligning with our overall marketing objectives in demographics and psychographics, and using that to judge, are we effectively placing our media in the right places? So it's a great tool for us to have to make sure that after we get a story placed, did it really reach who we thought it did?
So how do you use all of that data to inform your content and PR strategy?
Yeah, from there we can then take a look at it and make data-driven decisions around, okay, we think we wanted to reach people in Atlanta to encourage them to come up and visit Raleigh. So we've placed some articles out there, and in the end, even though the outlets were maybe based in Atlanta, what we found was their audience was more broadly diverse than that, and they were maybe actually hitting more of like a Texas audience, for example. So hey, what do we know? We thought that was going to be a home run. It wasn't. Let's redirect and let's really hone in more on some media or even influencers in the Atlanta market that would allow us to really hit that audience that's living there that we're trying to drive into our destination. So it's using it as like a validation tool to drive that strategy on the back end, and then on the front end, using it to help set goals and targets around demographics and also different psychographic information, as well as really regionally, where are we trying to bring visitors into our hotels, attractions, etc.
Could you be a little more specific, maybe an example of how you use data to inform your PR and content strategy?
Yeah, so one example was a couple years ago when I was working for the state of North Carolina Tourism Office, Visit North Carolina. We had an unfortunate summer of many shark incidents along our coast, and we were really grappling with what do we do, how do we get out there and get ahead of it and try to let people know that it's not as bad as they think, and that ultimately our beaches are safer than people are seeing in the media. And it was really through working with Cision's analytics department that we were able to first analyze the media coverage that was out there and learn, surprisingly, that there wasn't as much of a direct association with our beach and our coastal destinations by name as we thought. It was more like sharks along the East Coast or sharks along the Atlantic. And so it actually impacted us in a way that allowed us to not go out there and do a proactive PR strategy, which is exactly what we were gearing up to do, because ultimately we probably would have been associating our brand with it more so than people were organically at the time. And I think that's a real good moment for me when a light bulb went off that, it's not always what it seems, and the power of data and analytics to help us make those decisions, and just taking that extra half day to run some analysis and to take a look at it first made all the world of difference.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you particularly use the Comms Cloud, Haro, and Impact?
Yeah, the Comms Cloud is fantastic. It allows us to really go out there and validate that an outlet is going to be the right fit for us. Do they really have the effective reach that they're showing on their media kit or on their website? It also allows us to sort of segment and look at different verticals and then take into account the reporter themselves that's working on a story and what's their impact and their reach, above and beyond just the written, story that they're going to do through their social media account. So looking at them as an influencer, that's really helpful for us in that regard. And then Impact is fantastic. It's one of the newest tools, and we jumped on it right away, and we think it's been very valuable to us because it allows us to really make data-driven decisions and find out if our audience that we intended to hit is actually who we're reaching. I think it's a magical bullet out there right now, and I want more and more of it. I wish we could submit even more articles and get more data. So the more outlets are able to participate in it, I think the better it will become. But it's really helped us and opened our eyes to where we thought we were hitting the nail on the head and maybe we were missing the mark. So I think that's insightful for us. And then Haro is great because it allows us to jump on a media opportunity that we didn't even know existed. And so keeping up with that and working on that as a way to keep up with media that are switching beats and who's writing about different things, and then also jump on an opportunity to help a journalist, plug a hole they have in a story and get ourselves included in it.
Well, a final bonus question for you. What is the most surprising thing that you have learned while using Cision?
I think it's the power of analytics. Throughout my years in this industry, we've always been trying to collect data and make sure we have all the right data points. But what I've learned is that that's step one, and without step two, you lose the power of making data-driven decisions. So what are you doing to analyze that data once you have it? Once you've got the reach, of stories, or you've looked at the, the net impressions, and if you've looked at the audiences now through Impact and where they're going, you've got it all laid out in front of you, but you have to make data-driven decisions. So you have to be able to analyze that data that you're getting to figure out what are you going to do with it. And it's that strategy of making data-driven decisions and looking at analytics that I think has been most valuable to me, and something that I've really, really tried to work on that definitely has been a seed planted through Cision.